Hi everyone, welcome back to Alice and the Giant Bookshelf. In today's video I'm going to be talking about Tom Lake by Ann Patchett and the audiobook which is narrated by Meryl Streep. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. My name's Alice and I have way too many books, and today's video is about a book that I have read. It's a book review for you and it's of Tom Lake by Ann Patchett. This is a book that I have ended up coming around to reading because I predicted that this would get onto the Women's Prize for Fiction long list this year, and it then didn't. However, in the meantime, and before that as well, I think, I had heard that this had been given an audiobook narrated by Meryl Streep. And I'd never read Ann Patchett before. I've never listened to an audiobook narrated by Meryl Streep before, although I have seen Meryl Streep in films and on television. So today's question for me really while reviewing this book, which I finished reading or listening to this morning, is when we're listening to an audiobook, can we actually separate the audiobook and the narration from the book itself, or are they far too intrinsically linked and therefore making it impossible to judge whether it's the audiobook we love or the book as a whole? As I've said, I was new to Ann Patchett. I knew already that this is an author that my mum very much loves. I had personally been interested in reading Bel Canto before because this was a previous winner of the Women's Prize for Fiction. I think back when it was the Orange Prize. But I've also always kind of thought that Ann Patchett was the sort of author that I might find is an author writing books that are, for want of a better phrase, a bit too quiet for me. So my mum has often praised Ann Patchett for her ability to write books that are talking about the ordinary, the everyday life, and I don't know how true that is because I haven't read any of her other books outside of Tom Lake. Always been an author I've been sort of curious to maybe try one day, and I finally have. All that is to say, I'm not sure if Ann Patchett, and this book in particular, Tom Lake, is the sort of book I would usually pick up. Even having read it, I am finding it hard to define its genre or subgenre. I presume that this is what people would describe as literary fiction. It's very much more a story of someone's life and relationships, and one particular relationship in their life, than maybe most of the books that I would normally read. So yeah, how did I actually get on with listening to this audiobook? Initially, I thought for certain that I just loved Meryl Streep reading me a story, and that would be the same regardless of the story. But I gradually realised throughout listening to this that I was really genuinely enjoying the whole thing, the whole experience. Patchett's writing, the characters in this. So yeah, I sort of feel a bit conflicted about it in terms of, do I love this because I loved the audiobook, or do I love it genuinely as an entire book? But to tell you a bit more about Tom Lake before we get started, Tom Lake is Ann Patchett's 9th novel, I believe, and it was published in 2023. And this story is told by Lara in first person. This is both a pandemic story of a family living on a cherry farm in Michigan with their 3 daughters returned home during the lockdown. It also isn't that at all, because it's also the story of Lara's youth and her relationship with a man who became a famous actor, Peter Duke. And the titular Tom Lake is actually not a person, it's the place where these 2 characters met many years ago. I think I've already covered the fact that I absolutely loved the narration of this book. There are certain people who I've said time and time again in videos about audiobooks I would trust to read me anything. Meryl Streep probably goes down as one of those narrators. I thought she was really, really excellent in this. As to Ann Patchett, and her writing, and what did I really think? So let's talk first of all about things I really liked in Tom Lake. I really liked the past timeline in this book, the story of Lara's younger years and how she got into acting through a play called Our Town by Thornton Wilder, which I haven't read and hadn't heard of prior to this book, but I now would very much be interested in reading to explore this more. I liked how the play is so central to this story and how when Lara was younger, this play clearly meant so much to her, and we get snippets of this play throughout the book, really, and it made me very interested to read that play. And it also, I think, if I was to look much deeper at this book and also to have read that play, I wondered if I might have been able to find more parallels between Patchett's story and that story. I really enjoyed the structure of this, going between the past and the present, and also getting the extra bits of the story that Lara decides to keep from her daughters as she tells her daughters this story of young love and the romance that she had with this one day to be famous actor. I really liked how the past intertwined with their present in various ways that I can't really define too much without spoilers, and I thought that the characters were really believable, particularly Lara, but I did wonder at times, did I like Lara so much because I liked the way Meryl Streep played her, or did I just like Lara completely? It was very hard to tell. A further thing that I liked about it was the setting. The setting was really beautifully described. I could really picture this cherry farm that Lara and her family live on. And I also thought that all the settings in the past timeline were very vividly described, and sort of, it really had, in some of the past sections, that kind of feeling of reminiscence and memory and, yeah, youthfulness as well. Some of the things that I didn't necessarily dislike, but I did wonder if they would be problems for other people reading this book. I wondered if this was going to be too quiet a story for me, but by the end I was just left feeling that it was a really lovely story. I think there are definitely readers out there who will absolutely love this. In fact, I know that a lot of readers have, but I also equally think that there are readers out there who will just find this too quiet, will find this a story where not a lot is really happening. I think that there's a time and a place for a story like this, and I think that I was really happy with the time in which I listened to it. It was just a really nice story, and I mean that in a good way. I do think it will be a bit slow going for some readers, and I do think it's also been criticised for maybe being too positive, putting a very positive spin on this story. There's sometimes a little bit of a sense of the sadness and isolation of the pandemic and the lockdown, and there's a few mentions of like the ways in which this is affecting the family, but it's not gone into an awful lot. It is overall really a very happy book, even though there are things within it that are not so happy. But I just think a criticism that may have been levelled at this is its overall positivity, and perhaps that is why it didn't receive the nod for the Women's Prize. I'm not sure. All in all, I personally very much enjoyed the book Tom Lake, or more specifically the experience of listening to Tom Lake by Ann Patchett, narrated by Meryl Streep. Can I separate the audiobook from the book in this case? Probably not. I don't think this is a book I would dislike reading it in print, but I do think that Meryl Streep significantly added to this book for me, and I would absolutely listen to other books that she had narrated, whether or not I thought that they were the genre for me. She did a really great job of acting this, as I knew she probably would. Would I read more Ann Patchett, both on audio or in physical form? Yes, I think I definitely would. I think I definitely still want to read Bel Canto, which has been on my list for a while. Not sure about her other books, so if you are an Ann Patchett fan and you have any suggestions as to where to go next or where to sort of start apart from Tom Lake, I would love to hear from you. I do think that even behind the audiobook experience, you could tell that Ann Patchett is a very accomplished writer. I loved the layers of storytelling in this. The play within the book, the story within the play, the storytelling to the daughters, layered with the storytelling details that the mother is keeping back, and the family dynamic of this all worked really, really well together for me. Thought that this was a really beautiful book. Not maybe a completely 5-star book for me, but very, very close. And if you are a reader of literary fiction and you do like audiobooks, this is a really, really good one to listen to. If I do in the future read the play Our Town, I think I would then probably try and get a physical copy of this book and see what I think of it on the page, as well as having listened to it. That's all for my review, but I would absolutely love to hear from you in the comments. Have you read Tom Lake? Will you read Tom Lake? And I'd love to hear from you, all things Ann Patchett. Have you read her books? Do you like them? Are there any you would really recommend or not really recommend? I would love to hear all of that from you in the comments down below. And if you have enjoyed this review video today, I would love it if you would give it a like and consider subscribing if you haven't already. And I will hope to see you all again very soon for another video all about books here on Alice and the Giant Bookshelf. Bye for now.